projects go hand in hand, but before you tackle those projects, Sharon has all the painting tips you're going to need to know, regardless of what you want to paint. Now, that could be brick, it could be stucco, it could be the window trim. You've got tips.
Yeah, because you know what, you pretty much can paint a lot more materials than you think. Yes. I'm actually not going to talk about wood because I could do an entire segment on that, which I will probably later in the season.
Yes.
But with every other material, like there's so many things that you have to consider, and most of us, when it comes to the exterior, are probably going to hire a professional, and that's a really good thing to do because A, you probably don't want to get up on a ladder if you've got a tall house. B, you don't know, there's a lot more prep involved than with the interior. And you know, it's just a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it can be very tall. It can, right?
Yes,
you might have to go very high, because that might be dangerous.
It can be dangerous, so you really want to know what you're doing. So whether you're hiring someone or you are doing it yourself, it's still important to know about the preparation, because that way when you do hire someone, you know, you can have that confident conversation with them about how much prep they're going to do, because just like I say with the inside, it's really, you know, 80% of the job is the preparation.
Prep.
So you should hire one of Leanne's friends there to do all the prep for you, and then just come in and do the painting. So we want to think about the weather outside. So you do want it, that's probably your worst enemy when it comes to exterior painting. And I'm going to talk mostly about the porous surfaces first. Brick, stucco. These are pretty common cladding materials around North America. And brick is actually, it surprised me. People are like, we can really paint brick? It's really quite easy to paint. But once you paint it, you're committed. You're not taking it off. So, you know, I think usually if you're painting brick, it's because there's been some damage done. You've done some repair work, so it's a bit messy looking. You want to give it a consistent look. Or you really just don't like the color and you want it to feel more modern, right? So that's what you're against. So when it comes to brick, you want to make sure that it's clean. Actually, when it comes to everything outside, clean, dry, and dull. You don't want to be painting extra shiny materials. Brick is perfect, it's porous. So assuming it's clean, it has no mildew on it, you can really just use a scrub brush to take off any dust. If it's really crumbly, like if the brick is really, really old and it's crumbly, you might need something like, you would definitely want to use a primer in that case, like a Masonry Primer, like the Ultra Spec, that's specifically for that, and it actually strengthens the integrity of the product, of the substance before you paint it. But in most cases, just like if you're doing your brick fireplace inside, you don't need a primer. So if you're using Aura or Regal exterior, they're acrylic latexes, they're made for outside. They're made for all of these different materials. If you're not spraying it, and you're using a roller, you need to use a high density, like a really high pile roller, like this big fluffy guy.
So it gets into all those little, the little crooks.
Absolutely. Obviously spraying is easier, but most of us, again, if you're doing it yourself, you probably don't have a sprayer, and it takes a lot of time to tape off all the windows and all the things that you don't want.
That's right.
Right? So if you can, you want to use a roller, you're going to need 2 coats, but I'm just going to show you on here. Kind of easy, so you get that idea. And you can see, like, obviously 1 coat can give you a pretty good coverage, but we always recommend exterior, especially 2 coats. It's just going to give you all the UV protection. It's going to get into all those nooks and crannies, and you're going to have a really nice looking finish. So this is Booth Bay Gray, and we all know that grays are beautiful. We see a lot of grays. It's a nice sort of mid-tone gray. I'm actually going to use that same roller just to go over the stucco. It's pretty much the same thing. Stucco is also a porous material. If it's in good shape, you can just paint right over your white or your cream or your pink stucco. Put whatever color you want on it. Do 2 coats, but do all the preparation. Make sure it's completely dry and clean, and that way your paint is going to last for a long time.
Once again, just like the brick, if you have a certain paint, you don't need the primer again.
Exactly. If you're using a high quality acrylic latex like Aura or Regal Select, exterior, you can just go right over unless there's any damage done to any water stains, that sort of thing. And just a simple scrub brush, maybe TSP if there's mildew or a cleaning product, but otherwise you're good to go. Just make sure it's dry. Now, windows. This is something that I've had several house projects that we've done on Cityline where we've gone from white to black or white to gray. And it's a quick thing that you can do on your house that'll make the house look modern. And you know what, you don't normally, like if it's a brand new window, you're probably not going to be painting it, but most of the time it's because it's old, it's dated. And believe it or not, the old vinyl windows, the older they are, they do weather. Like the vinyl itself does sort of, I won't say disintegrate, but it does become an easier surface to paint. So in this case, you also don't need a primer. Now talk to your paint retailer about your particular surface, but
Yeah.
But if it's in good shape, you want to just use a light sanding. So you've cleaned it, of course. Use a light sanding. A lot of the painters that I've worked with use like a Scotch-Brite pad, so it's not even an actual sand paper, and then you sort of just get the surface. That cleans it as well, but that roughens it up a little bit.
Yes.
So you want the paint to be able to stick to it. And then this is a job that you could do your own if you're just doing sort of a single level home. It's not that difficult to do.
Tape this out yourself.
You could tape it. If you're a good painter, you probably won't tape it. I showed a picture of this last night to my painter, and he's like, "You never put green painter's tape on it. Just cut in."
Oh,
but I'm like,
really?
"It's live TV. I'm not going to make a mess." So again, a small angle sash brush, and you can see this is Benjamin Moore's wrought iron. It's one of my favorite colors for windows because it's not black, black, black. It has like a really nice sort of charcoal color to it, so that's really pretty. So you kind of want to put that on there, and you definitely want to do 2 coats.
A couple of coats,
yeah. And the thing with windows is you're not going to be touching it, so it's gonna. The good thing is it has a lot of time to cure. It can take the weather once it's cured and it's ready to go. But 2 coats, and there you go. Vinyl siding is very much the same treatment. It's also not a very porous product. Very easy to paint. Again, you want to use an acrylic latex. Like Aura or Regal, and you want to make sure it's absolutely clean and then paint away.
Beautiful.
Change the color.
That's really good.